In a universe that has a lot of strong fighters, even if you're not necessarily the strongest fighter in the world, having a title of being the strongest in the entirety of the United States is still impressive considering this universe you're in. Like, there's a lot of strong fighters in this universe. Biscuit, Oliva, dubbed as the Unchained. He's not the strongest man in the world, but he's dubbed the strongest United States. The United States strongest, the monstrous strength of Oliva. Let's talk about him. His nickname, the Unchained, is literally literal. He cannot be contained in prisons in the world makes. He can just walk through the front gate with raw power. This is what they mean when they say unchained. Literally being unchained, even in a prison, this is how he does doors. So they're not exaggerating when they say he's unchained. Just to give you a visual on what he can get out of, apparently, just with raw strength. These gates. They even go as far as saying the Marines can't even stop him, so that's why he's considered unchained. The Baki universe is filled up with ridiculously, unrealistically strong humans. Biscuit is no exception to this rule. Like, I'm talking about, even if you bring a gun to a fist fight, he says it's like trying to kill an elephant with a slingshot and stones. Like, I'm talking about, like, he had like legit bullet wounds, but they were like flesh wounds kind of, and they start healing up ridiculously fast. He's not human. Like, he's literally got no armor. They barely even penetrate his skin. Like, you see like small little nicks, but for the most part, he's unaffected, honestly. Flexes them off, guys. No big deal. I mean, there's even times where he gets cocky and says, not even bullets can penetrate my skin. I mean, there is some truth to it, but he's kind of exaggerating a little bit. But yeah, he's very durable. His muscles are dense. Even using a sword against him, you won't be able to penetrate much. He says the only way for you to be able to even do anything is that you need to cut slabs of iron with your hands to even stand a chance. His fighting style is interesting because he can do weird techniques like the orb, where he curls up into a ball like this. This is a strange technique because he can only do this because he has a really good, unique skill of being able to have precise muscle control. Like, when I say muscle control, I mean, like, look at his forearm. Like, he literally can control his muscles. Moving from his shoulders to his neck behind his head and reach the other arm. It's called muscle control. He can strengthen any part of his body, basically like armor type stuff, and repel attacks at the point of impact, which makes him extremely hard to move. Let's talk about his raw muscle strength. Like, just a simple handshake, he can do crazy damage to you with just his forearm strength and such. Stuff like this can give you an idea of what his bigger muscles can do if his finger strength is known for this. Small examples of his strength with this king-size bed. Not only is the bed itself large, but it actually has someone in the bed, his lover, who he's also carrying. He can also lift and carry her like it's no big deal because of his muscle. Do me a favor and try to throw a motorcycle this easily, that far. Biscuit makes this kind of stuff look easy. Like, his vice grip is so strong, he can literally pull you. Like, if there's a hole in the wall and you put your arm through that hole in the wall, he can pull you through that thick hole in the wall with his muscle. Biscuit can definitely outlift all your favorite lifters in real life, can easily lift over half a ton. How much you think he's curling? He be doing these crazy weights for reps. You know, he's way stronger than any human in real life. Oliver proves that if you have enough brute strength, it can overpower skill. Like, beings compare him, trying to pull him to trying to pull a tree. That's how they envision pulling Oliver. He's not really pulling a tree. It feels like trying to pull a tree. Yep. I mean, what do you expect when somebody can bear hug and do spine buster type grips? His grip strength. Yeah. Twisting the door open like this. I mean, we are talking about a guy that does exercises or training sessions with literal helicopters that can actually be measured with actual weight. And if you guys know anything about bench pressing or weightlifting, you know when you can bench press something for multiple reps, you know that's not your max weight. Nobody ever works out or exercises with their max weight. That's just ego lifting. Biscuit does workouts like this with reps and stuff. And based on the weight on how this helicopter looks, it looks like a helicopter that exists in real life. This helicopter model in particular, it's one of the more heavier helicopters. And he can use these like weights, meaning he can support over 20 tons. I would even argue he can do more than this because if you can do this for reps, he probably can do double this weight, one could say. He can lift stuff like this or move 70,000 pounds. In the Baki universe, fighters and characters get humbled all the time. Biscuit has gotten beaten, overpowered, just normal Baki stuff. Like right here, when he got in a contest of strength against this super strong sumo being, he got messed up. Yeah, this guy's kind of busted when it comes to his raw strength, doing this to his ribs. Man. That was a bad L. But of course, he had to redeem himself. He rehabilitated, of course, with his weightlifting equipment and such. But there was implications. The only reason that Oliva got destroyed was because that was his specialty, was sumo. But if they fought in a different kind of fight, this would imply that he would be able to match up with his strength a lot better. Oliva would. No, we did it in sumo, but in the context of different type of fighting with different types of strength involved, it's a different story. Matter of fact, Biscuit wanted to prove he was on his strength tier. He even offered to do a contest of strength with him, proving that Biscuit is somewhere in his ballpark. In physical strength, y'all can debate down in the comments below who y'all think physically can lift more weight. I'm not really trying to do that here. My point, I'm just trying to get across is that he's somewhere in his ballpark. That's the only real thing I want to be known here. He says, for you to be a strong man, you aren't too strong. This is impressive considering how superhumanly strong this being is. Yeah, let the visual speak, like he's smiling it off. But I do want to make something to be known that he technically was nerfed, I guess. He's saying he's not weak. He's just not as strong as he would usually be without his pinky. With his pinky, he can make diamonds, but without it, he's implying he couldn't make it, so implying he's weaker. You know what I mean? It was stated that his ultra, like this being that Oliva had overpowered, like in previous fights, they said his strength was able to create ultra pressure strength that can turn coal into diamond. So with all this strength of him being able to compete with beings that can apparently turn coal into diamonds and stuff, if we assume that Biscuit can match somewhat this guy's grip strength, if this scan actually proves that this guy can exert 100 tons, that would mean Biscuit should be somewhere in that ballpark in strength, which would imply, just like this guy, Biscuit technically should have the strength to lift the tank up, or a couple tanks for that matter, if that scan is actually true about that guy being able to crush coal into the actual diamond. If that's true, that would kind of imply some heavy stuff for Oliva. Matching being strength like this, it's no wonder beings like Oliva can hit so hard. There's weight behind his hits. I mean, for Pete's sake, he even fought the main character, so you know he can hit hard. The weight of his hits is lethal, like doing this to people's bodies with his hits. Caving in your chest and making you go fly with a single hit, making you dead from one hit. The weight of his hit busts car doors. Hey, nuisance, get out of my way. You're a pest. Get sent out the window. I mean, he hits and slams beings so hard they think, well, normal people think a bomb is going off. The weight of his hits, even if you're strong enough to withstand it and you block it, the ground itself, the concrete itself can't handle the weight of his hits, breaking the concrete itself from his strikes. He doesn't want to go overboard with his strength sometimes, so sometimes he'll underrate a character because he'll take pity on him. Look what his smacks would do, even like open-handed hits would do to your chest. Look at the weight of his hits, sending somebody to the wall, creating the wall. Imagine being dubbed the Unchained and not having the strength to hit somebody through walls. That's the whole point, right? He can't be contained in prison, so it's obvious he can break through walls with his hits. Right? Just like that. Then he can go in his Juggernaut status, grab you, and then ram you through a whole bunch of more walls. I mean, is this stuff really shocking? In this same video, I showed him lifting helicopters that can weigh 30 or 15 plus tons. Is that really shocking? He's overpowered a being with his muscle that can crush coal into diamonds. Is that really shocking he can hit through walls with his strikes? Here's a quick example of the weight of his hits. Hitting this huge being into this car, engraving the car. Against Baki here, the main character, we see him punch him through a thick iron door with the weight of his hits. The way he slams Baki, they even go in detail on how big of a concrete crater they made with the weight of his strikes, with a depth reaching 30 centimeters. He got hit in the face by Baki, the main character, and smiled it off. Stuff like this proves that he can take just like what he can dish out. I mean, even when Baki spams kicks to him. Now, if we talk about his strange orb technique, like I brought up earlier, one of Baki's strongest kicks, he can bounce back. This is like one of his deadliest techniques, repelling him that easy. Drained, Baki literally swallowing him like on some Pac-Man type stuff, like literally eating him. This is kind of crazy. He learns from his mistakes because rematching this being when he tried to do the same technique, messing up his ribs, Biscuit said, not this time, making him lose his grip. Then slams him, gets hit by this being. When Biscuit does his signature roll up into a ball move, this being hits him and he simply bounces off like a gigantic spring bounced off. Like, is Oliva indestructible like this? Like, he can't move. That's when he decided to use it on him and swallow him, kind of similar to how he did Baki. But he couldn't get the whole body in there because this guy was actually bigger than him. Like, what is going on here? He was just a bit too big. He did actually break out though. Even pushing him close to passing out. Oliva actually punches this being and He even admits defeat. They had fun. I'm pretty sure Biscuit could level a whole building. Like, he can make localized earthquakes by just slamming somebody really hard against the pavement. This is not like unheard of in the Baki universe because like we literally seen him box it out with Baki himself. Blow for blow and crap. Like, this is one of them situations he did lose, but he did pretty good against them, I would say. But yeah, he eventually got overwhelmed. Baki's the main character. He can hit too hard. When it comes to punching power, I would say Baki's above him by a bit. I mean, think about it. The character he slugfested with, he did end up losing, but he slugfested with him for quite a bit. This is the same Baki main character being. Yeah, I know this universe gets wonky at times because these characters technically don't have no superpowers, but Baki somehow can make illusions that can literally kind of mimic some real life people or in this universe. Like how he imagined his father he's trying to defeat one day. I guess you can kind of get an idea of how hard Baki can hit based on how strong these illusions are. Because it's technically stuff he creates or whatever out of his mental mind. Like, I guess you can kind of get an idea of his striking power based on that kind of stuff. And this is who Biscuit is slugfesting with. You know, you can kind of get an idea that way, I guess. Baki's fake illusions can do all of this when he's fighting with himself or whatever. You can see the people interacting. Like, a whole bunch of city blocks was being affected by all of this. It was spreading this far out. It's one of them situations, if you don't believe Biscuit can do this because this is Baki, whatever, if you don't want to assume he can hit as hard as Baki, what if we assume he can do, I don't know, just random math. Can he do half of this or 1/4 of this? I don't know, 1/5, you know. He slugfested him for a little bit, you know, Oliva. This kind of makes sense when you think about Oliva did a decent job striking Baki, even though he got overwhelmed eventually. I would say definitely a few city blocks or a few blocks, he can definitely trimmer them to its very core. This is fair considering we've seen him clash with the mighties of the verse and Oliva can't overpower him in any aspect. You know, Yujiro's the man, so there's nothing wrong with losing to him. But just to give you an idea of this universe's top tiers and what they can do, Yujiro can literally punch and stop earthquakes with just the raw energy of his punching power, guys. An earthquake stopped with his fist. Like, these are the top tiers. So I'm not saying Biscuit can necessarily do exactly this, but this gives you an idea of him being able to shake a block or two makes sense. Biscuit being able to do that, you know, based on the top tiers of the verse. He's a fighter in this universe. Battled the son of a guy that can do this. You see what I mean? But Biscuit did get overpowered by the man, the myth, the legend himself, though. So, like, we're talking about the lore of the Baki universe, an earthquake that was compared to actual magnitude earthquakes that actually have real measurements and graph. Like, this is actually a major event you can Google, and these are the type of earthquakes they're comparing, like, some of the top tiers to, and Yujiro apparently had to stop this with a freaking punch. So, yeah, I'm not saying Biscuit can necessarily do anything Yujiro can do, but that just gives you an idea of him being able to level buildings, multiple buildings, shake an entire block. That kind of stuff makes sense. Like, him punching and then you feel the shockwave of his hits a couple houses over makes a lot of sense for Biscuit when you think about it. Like, I don't want to get into semantics, but like magnitude earthquakes on this level can generate millions of tons of force. Oliva being below them, what do you think he can produce? Hundreds of thousands of tons of force? 500,000 of tons of force? It's something I would say would still be considered lower than Baki. So Baki and them, just hypothetically speaking, can hit with 1,000,000 tons of force. Biscuit, lowballing him, he should be able to hit within the range of 500,000 tons of force if he's, you know, below them, but not too far below them. Kind of can hang with them, but kind of can't. You know, that kind of range. The higher ends can stop magnitude 6 earthquakes. Baki's illusions can make localized earthquakes in the area. Biscuit can make his own earthquakes. It kind of makes sense for him to be able to produce a lot of thousands of tons of force. I showed you this earlier of him slamming and somebody thought a bomb went off. Like, that lets you know how hard he can hit. Like, earthquakes is kind of like a common theme. In this occasion, they said Biscuit affected the whole world. Now, he didn't really affect the whole world. It was because, you know, the satellites are always on certain characters if they move a certain miles per hour. And they was like talking about what they were seeing.
How long has it been since I got to hit someone for real?
Just small incidents here and there, in the ocean, in the mountains.
According to this, we're driving through a building.
The navigation's off. I guess something must have happened.
Repeat, I'm not saying Biscuit's up there with Yujiro, but Yujiro's punches have been compared to nuclear impacts. That would kind of add up with the 1,000,000 tons of force that Baki and Yujiro can apparently produce with their punches, you know, because 1 megaton is 1,000,000 tons and 50 megaton nuclear bomb is 50 million tons. You see how it kind of adds up with the statements? The feat of them causing them earthquakes kind of adds up with the statements. 6 magnitude, 7 magnitude earthquake can produce millions of tons of force. It kind of adds up with the statements with smaller nuclear bomb impacts. They say Yujiro's can hit with nuclear impact. You know, not saying he's necessarily equal with these two, but it just kind of gives you an idea of the verse he's in, who he's really punching against and fighting against. Matter of fact, in Baki's opinion, he believes Biscuit and Pickle would be an interesting fight, you know, the prehistoric human.
Biscuit Oliver. Now that's something I'd love to see. That would be a fight for all ages.
So all this stuff starts to make more sense when you deep dive into it. You're probably thinking, where am I getting these numbers from? Okay, magnitude 7 earthquakes produce over millions of tons of force. I'm using bare minimums to give you a visual perspective on what I'm talking about, on how Baki should be maybe slightly under him. That's why I got his punching grid like this. And Oliva could be quite a bit below him. He's not super duper far below them, but he's below them. You know what I mean? That's why I'm getting 500,000 tons of force. If beings like Yujiro can hit with over millions of tons of force being disrespectful, Oliver should be able to hit with, I don't know, 500,000 tons of force or 600,000 tons of force. Like, he's behind him, but not too far. He wouldn't be like a 100-ton puncher with these beings being this high based on Oliver's performance with Baki. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't make sense. So, you know what I mean? That's why I say this is kind of like a range or a rough estimation, guesstimation. Does that make sense to you? That's where I'm getting that number from, about him being able to shake a couple city blocks and stuff, just like the other top tiers. Even if he's not equal to him, he's somewhere in their range. And he's a lot faster than you would expect. I mean, he's able to keep up with Baki in fighting speed. This could partly be the reason why he can hit so hard. His fist might be able to travel real fast with his fighting technique. This could be part of the reason why he could hit hard. His punching speed. This is a small example of his speed on how these roses, before they fall, he can catch it. Like, it shows he has fast hands. For animation purposes, us viewers, we can see them fight, but normal people in the vicinity, they can't see them fight. Biscuit can fight this fast along with Baki. This gives you a testament of his fighting speed. Don't forget that Baki characters, Biscuit can react to this kind of stuff, can hit you in less than a second by a lot. Like, this gives you an idea of what Biscuit Oliver has to compete against when it comes to speed, fighting speed. There's literal punches in Baki called the Mach punch, the speed of sound punch. Not to mention, there's lower tiers in this universe that can punch so fast, they can even go 78 times faster than the speed of sound. So it just kind of lets you know the type of characters that Biscuit has to compete against. There's certain characters that get completely blitzed by Baki's speed. Biscuit doesn't get treated like this, so it lets you know his speed is pretty good. It may be hard to believe, but he's already this strong, like I've already talked about throughout this video, but he can also punch you like this and before you can even see what's going on. So he's a scary being. He's a being that believes in real strength, not fancy tricks or hacks. Like, hacks is basically a way of beating somebody without necessarily being strong or more powerful, but yeah, he's saying you need real strength against him. He's a believer of that. Sure, he might not be able to hit as hard as beings like Yujiro, but his body still will stood a hit from Yujiro. But even Oliver kind of admitted a hitting contest with this guy is not the best idea. He can hit with close to millions of tons of force or over hundreds of thousands of tons of force, mess up your house or blow your house away with punches. That's the kind of weight of punches we're talking about when it comes to this guy. His fighting speed and fist is probably way faster than the speed of sound by a large margin. It's no wonder he has this kind of strength with that speed. He can do this type of stuff to the environment and stuff. What do you guys think? Based on you making it this far in the video, he believes you should hit that like button. It would really help out a lot. Respect Biscuit. And I really appreciate the donations, everybody. Biscuit the Unchained. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.